Hey there guys, welcome back to the deck profile with yours truly, Paul Reisman. Today we are taking a look at the recent Falchion list that Dan piloted on the channel for his Justice Edition control. Let's get right into it.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FoulLibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists. It's also brought to you by our guest lecturer patrons, wyatt. Class is in session.
So Dan, Dalton, and I at TCG Prime have been kind of working on Justice as a kind of like a pet deck situation. I saw Justice and immediately thought, this is the ruler for me in this set. I love this ruler to death. I think it is super fun. And so I'll give you kind of an idea of what that looks like. Justice is going to be contracted off of Grandfather's Research Project. Draw 2, put an addition of 1 cost or less into the field. And then if you happen to be Justice on the flip side, you get Natural Flying, Eternal and Barrier as long as you're recovered. You have 6/6 as stats, which is pretty low, but he does have a way of increasing his stats. Whenever you play a chant, you can recover him. Anytime you play a second chant that turn, you get +1/+1 counters, up to 4 of them. If you play a third chant, you recover 2 stones, and if you play a fourth chant, you stop any number of spells, activate abilities, automatic abilities on the chase, up to the number that you wish. Justice is a quintessential control ruler, so it's hard to see why somebody would not want to go and at least try to do some sort of control list with Justice himself. Plus, he has really good tutoring tools like daily research to search out additions, and we'll jump right over to that. This is the main way that Falchion is able to sort of do what he does, right? To get into Justice, you need 3 additions on the field in order to contract, so searching them out of the deck seems like a good choice. This particular list focuses more on additions that have bonus effects, right? So not necessarily one-drop additions to help do that judgment, into Justice, but you have things like Trishula to ramp you stones and to give you bonus symbol skill effects if you're 3,000 or higher. You also have the First Moon, which protects your wall right here. This is an additional card that's going to get you to where you need to go, see deeper into your deck. It also gives you barrier and prevents some damage, which is really helpful. With the First Moon, it never dies. Altising's Secret Hideout, super awesome card. Gives your field barrier, so even if your Justice is rested, Secret Hideout is able to give it barrier and to protect it a little bit. Lightning Cave. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck because it shuts down everything except for Justice, which is really fun. So the Justice we showed you looks like it's just a green ruler, but it is a green and blue ruler. So Lightning Cave will not remove its symbol skills, which is really nice. This basically shuts your opponent down from having swiftness on things that the horse has given them, or if they're a red deck, they're kind of slowed down a bit. This is, kind of niche, but helpful in making sure that the game goes at your pace. Last addition that's in the deck that's super important that you really want to search out right away, in my opinion of how you play this deck anyway. Origin of the 7 Lands. Of course, you're revealing Drywing, you're preventing your opponent from getting extra mana. It doesn't really hurt you necessarily unless you're playing a deck like this where you have Melvie and Moo. But Origin of the 7 Lands allows you to turn your 2-drops into 1-drops essentially. So this card is very good for that. And it also opens up your entire sideboard as a kind of toolbox for additional bonus effects. So that is the addition lineup. You're playing 4 of the daily research to search those out. One card I completely glossed over, of course, is Magic Stone Research Institute, one of my favorite editions of all time. This is essentially a 1-cost edition that buffs your field +2/+2 for every different name of Magic Stone you have, and then because you do have extra rulers, you can remove your opponent's graveyard by just resting them. Very powerful effect. We saw Magic Stone Research Institute in the Magdeburg GP, so this card is still really relevant, still really powerful. Definitely something that I want to maybe either main board or sideboard in my version of the list, but that's neither here nor there. You're going to have to comment down below if you want to see that one. So we're playing 3 of the contract, which again flips you into Justice after you draw 2 and put in a 1-cost addition or less. One thing that I really saw with this card is that there are times in which Dan played this and didn't see his 1-drop chant, which was really unfortunate, but that's probably why playing fewer of this is helpful in that regard. 4 Feathsing 100 Years of Wizardry. You start off the game with an edition, and you're going to be building editions over the course of the game. Makes total sense as to why this would be here. The only time this would probably be bad is if all of the editions got wiped, but First Moon helps you to prevent that from happening, so that's really helpful. 4 of this seems really solid. You could also just play Laureate if you don't have these. Dan opted to play the Melvie Train. So the way that this works is, I'm going to shoot over to Moo here. You play Moo, you generate will, 2 green or 2 a green and a blue, or whatever you need to do to play a chant that turn. You cast your Melvie because she is a chant, and so you produce 2 more will. You have 2 bodies on the field, and you draw a card. Of course, because this will is not coming from magic stones, you have to be very aware of Drywing, shutting this play down. Drywing, I think, is still incredibly healthy for the game and really useful in a lot of sideboards. So you have to be prepared for that, and you might want to side these out in games 2 and 3. So just be aware of that. Melvie and Moo are kind of, depending on what you're trying to do with the deck, can be troublesome. So you might want to play something like Eternal Engineer, something like that. But this still a decent package. It's still a combo, and Melvie being a chant sets off one of Justice's triggers for his additional effects. He's also playing 2 Guardian Dragon of the Kingdom. One of the things that I really liked about Dan and Dalton's list is they embraced this card with Prisia. Prisia Seeker of Friends, if you're able to get a lot of Prisia's big shows off, you're not only triggering a lot of Justice effects, you're building up into something like a Guardian Dragon of the Kingdom on your opponent's turn. In that way, you're not only ramping a stone, you're putting 2 big bodies on field. And I just think that's incredibly good. I think that package is really, really strong. I think Prisia's Big Show is probably one of the staple cards for Falchion because it comes back to your hand. You don't have to rely on yourself getting more chance. You can actually have a creature base in this list because you have Big Show available to you, which is really nice. He's also playing 2 Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. I think this card is very pivotal right now. Zeus is still in the metagame. Obviously, we have Machina, so Machina can just search out things every single turn. But this also helps you in the mirror match to stop down things like daily research. It also helps you to stop Prisia plays on your opponent, who's trying to search out their own stuff. Whatever they're playing Prisia for, this card always helps with that. Maybe a 3rd or even a 4th in the main makes sense. You do have access to black at all times because of the Black Moon Child, so this card is very helpful for that reason. And if you happen to be at Seal 5, you also get access to things like Pumpkin Witch. You basically have a 5th Feathsing or a 5th Laureate in your sideboard with Pointy Hat Witch. Card does a lot for the deck and increases the control elements of the list. And Dan opted to play, he had 1 slot left, and so he said, I want to play Ultra Magic Stone Golem. He's already playing a Diversity Stone list, so it kind of made sense that, if you have 1 of every different stone, or even if you're playing just a 3-drop, being able to just wipe your opponent's board with a Precision Pierce 2020 on board seems pretty decent to me. Card exists. It's not necessarily something I would do for my own list, but Dan at times found it to be useful. Going into the chant lineup, I'm going to talk about this card first. So Whispers from the Wind is a card very, very legacy players will recognize. This came out of the Feathsing structure deck way back in Lapis Cluster, and that is when we first got the kind of like Storm or Torrent mechanics that gave us that first introduction to playing multiple cards a turn for bonus effects. Whispers from the Wind, really good card. I typically use this card in the Storm version of the deck right before my draw step, so that way whatever I draw off the top of my deck is just cheaper. It's just super fun. And then I draw an additional card for that turn, so it helps me dig deeper into my deck. It makes my cards cheaper, helps me sneak around Girion a little bit, and it helps me make the most of my will. That's what I think is so good about this card. If you're not trying to go for any sort of Storm effect, I don't know if you need this card too much. It does make your things like Prisia cheaper. It makes your research, your daily research is cheaper if you're already contracted and your falchion's flipped over. Makes your Feath Sinks free. So it does something for the deck. I don't know if you necessarily need 3, but it is an option, and I personally, I really like this card. Dan is also playing Sniper Shot, which is a recommendation that I gave him, over Justice Punch. The reason is because Sniper Shot is the same basic cost. It's 1 mana, but what it ultimately does is make your Justice even bigger in the long run. So if you want your Justice to be more of a win con, I think Sniper Shot is really good for that. It's a 1 cost. It puts the counters on Justice, and then it has him battle something. So that's super good. It also triggers Justice. So there's a potential for you to get multiple counters on him with his own effect too. Sniper Shot I think is just better than Justice Punch, but if you disagree, you're going to let me know down in the comments, and we'll hash it out. How's that? Dan is also playing 3 Fairer Spell. Kind of makes sense. You're a green deck. You're trying to control, protect your stuff, win the Cancel War, play Fairer Spell. Makes sense. Then, if you go down to the stone list, you have Adiractus Memoria. These are going to be tapping for 4 colors naturally, 5 colors if you use, if you want to tap for red for some particular reason. That exists. Adiractus Memoria is here. It's a 4-color stone. Really, really good. And because we're playing things like Ultramagic Stone Golem and Research Institute, he's opting to go for a 3, 2, and 1 approach after that. So 3 of our new Moon Fragment, 2 of the Deepwood, and then 1 Kaguya's Stone of Sorrow. This card is really helpful, especially with Whispers from the Wind, because you can kind of rearrange and then cast Whispers and get a free card, as well as potentially play a card for free, which is really nice. So this card is actually decent, and it's in color, so why not play it? That all being said, guys, this deck is very different than the Wrath version of the deck, or the Storm version of the deck, excuse me. So if you want to see that, you're going to have to let me know down in the comment section down below. But thanks to Dan for playing this version, and Dalton and I for like coming in and sort of like trying to make this into what it is. I think Justice is a super fun ruler. And has a lot of potential. So if you want to see more Justice lists like this one, let us know down in the comment section down below. Hit that like button. Also hit subscribe and the bell if you want more content like this. And until next time, guys, it's been Paul. Talk to you soon.